This is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Wow, we get to talk about a Cowboys victory. Listen, that hasn't happened a lot this season, so we're going to relish it. It's a couple of days before Christmas, so we get to talk some positivity about your Dallas Cowboys, and I am alongside Michelle Montaigne, an upgrade from Andrew Seeley, our producer who is normally here, but tonight we get Michelle with us. So, Michelle, glad to see you here. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an upgrade. I'll take it. But I'm only here because, as Andrew told us last week, he's just continuing to rise in the ranks. He went ahead and gave us this message about how clearly he's risen and how fast it's happened.
Well, as I told you last week, Joe, I've risen in the ranks.
How high, you ask? About 265 feet. Happy holidays.
I mean, not everyone can pull off a little like he can. I thought that was a sweet little sentiment, and he is clearly very happy to be where he is and not in this seat where I am.
Well, certainly hanging around, with Lady Liberty. He's there in New York. He's going to have a good time. I heard there's going to be some Broadway musicals involved. So, his rise in the ranks apparently continues. All right, speaking of the ranks, let's bring in the rest of the show. We have got the one and only Glenn Stretch Smith, who's going to join us on the show tonight. He is making his maiden voyage on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. We've also got Mike Leslie with us as well, who is live at the ball game.
Yes.
Yes, he is. And I'm not sure where they are. So you and I can talk about the game a little bit now,
yeah,
Michelle,
that's
until we
right.
figure out where they are. What stuck out to you most in terms of what the Cowboys
What's on the show? Sponsored
Well,
by
I think what we're talking about
NFM.
is, now that we know who's on the show, what's on the show. And as you just led into it, Joe, I mean, there's so much to get to with this Cowboys team. They found out 4 hours prior to this game that they were eliminated from the playoffs, and yet we saw almost as much effort in this game as we've seen really all season. So there's a lot to get to in terms of what we saw from Cooper Rush and this offense, and there's a lot to get to in terms of the defensive showing that we saw on full display throughout 4 quarters today.
All right, great. Yes, that's what's on the show. Is now
Yes,
we talk about who's on the show?
Joining us to talk all about the
Wow,
Cowboys.
now we get to talk about that's my bad. Sorry about that, you guys. Yes, there he is, Glenn Stretch Smith, joining us for his maiden voyage on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. And there's Mike Leslie, who looks like he's made his way to the floor of AT&T Stadium. All right, Coach, let's start with you. In terms of what you saw from this Dallas Cowboys team on this night, what do you think they can build off of most in terms of that game?
I think you'd see a team, Joe, that is continuing to get better defensively. I really do. Now, we can talk about Cooper Rush and him being a backup quarterback and the job that he's doing, but I think Mike Zimmer and what he's done with the defense, let's be honest, still banged up. Kendrick's out. They're playing with backup linebackers, some playing defensive tackles that are not where supposed to be where they are. We're not supposed to be starters. I can't even say it right because you guys let me late into this show. But guess what, Joe? A defense that I think is getting after it up front.
Yeah, the defense was on full display, Stretch. You were absolutely right there. I know, Mike, you saw this offense firsthand there in AT&T Stadium. What was your biggest takeaway other than the fact that Brandon Aubrey can kick a field goal from anywhere on the field?
Anywhere on the field, anywhere on the planet. Cooper Rush, to me, is the big takeaway for the Cowboys, especially with his first half performance. I think that's the finest half of football we have seen from Cooper Rush in his time as a starter with the Dallas Cowboys. The only other game, half, whatever, that would, in my mind, compare was the game he played in Minnesota back in 2021 when he had that one game appearance in place of Dak Prescott. All of the games that he started in 2022 were more game manager centric. His most passing yards in any of those games was 235 yards. He had 226 in the first half tonight, 18 to 24 passing, a 117 passer rating. He was on fire in the first half of this football game. He has shown in these last couple of weeks just what kind of value he can bring to this franchise in that backup quarterback role.
Yeah, Mike, thanks so much. Yeah, listen, I mean, it was a great start. That first half was fantastic stuff. We're going to talk much more about this Cowboys win over the Bucs, but we want to take a break here now. Stay with us, folks. It is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show.
Today's headlines, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.
Well,
there you go.
so many headlines. We both are jumping to them.
That's right.
What was your biggest headline from this game, if you had to choose just one?
Well, if I
You had to choose. I'll give you two.
I'll give you two. First thing is, Cowboys eliminated from playoff contention. We knew it was going to happen. It was a matter of time. That time was today when Washington got the improbable and really cool win by Jaden Daniels over the Eagles. So that was one thing. And then, of course, today it's the Cowboys figuring out a way to win by exploiting an awful team. So Cowboys get a win that might cost them draft position. Full transparency, I don't like it. I'm sorry. I don't. They're out of the playoffs, and now let's see how far they fall in the draft order. So we're gonna keep falling, and we'll see how that works. And I'm curious, Mike, what's your take on the whole draft positioning versus winning to create some positivity in the locker room?
I think they've done plenty of winning to create positivity in the locker room over the course of the last month. At this point, now that you're officially eliminated, there was something to be gained here and certainly something to be lost here. They lost positioning in the NFL draft with this win. There's no two ways about it. And that has ramifications for your future. Now, I understand we don't want to, have the Cowboys in a situation where they have. We're good, man. Thank you. Got Cowboys fans that want to hand off footballs in the middle of the show. I understand. I understand that you don't want, if you're the Cowboys organization, to have your locker room feed into losing and having a losing culture. That's fine. That has validity. But at the same time, you are costing yourself pieces of your future. You now have that slightly smaller and smaller and smaller chance with each of these wins of getting the player or the couple players or the few players that were going to help you restock this thing and get back to winning games that actually matter, not games like tonight.
And I will say this, I've flipped on this in terms of covering the NFL, because there was a time when I thought it was important, especially if you didn't see there was going to be a change in regime, if you thought the coach was going to still be there the next year. There was a time when I thought, hey, listen, there is some validity, there is some sweat equity, there is some importance in getting those wins. But, Coach, when you're in this kind of nebulous situation where you don't know which way the coaching situation is going to go with Mike McCarthy, you don't know how much the Cowboys are willing to commit in terms of resources that they will spend in the offseason. The Cowboys have become a draft and develop team. And if you're a draft and develop team, it hurts when you don't get the best draft pick. So I'm curious because, listen, being a coach and being in the room, I suspect you might have a different take on this. What is yours?
I do, Joe. I think that anytime you can get these young guys into a real game, I'm not talking about a preseason game. I'm not talking about camp. I'm talking about get Flournoy in the game. I'm talking about you continue to see Awarie playing in the game. Let's talk about Leofau getting a green sticker on his helmet, making some calls. You cannot. It's worth more than gold to be able to get those guys that opportunity. And to me, you got to put them in this game and continue to put those young guys in there. I love seeing Flournoy in the game because guess what? He's got to play the speed of the game if he's going to be the guy that's going to pick it up and run for you.
But do you think they should still get the win, or do you think they should put even more young players in so they could organically tank?
Well, I mean, I think you'd keep putting young players in the game, Joe. In no way can you ever get me as a coach to say, hey, I'm all right with walking out of here with an L. I'm never going to do that. It's just against my culture and it's against what I believe in.
I had a suspicion that's where you were, Coach. That's why I just wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear it. Michelle, what's your take on it?
Well, it's very interesting and timely that Stretch had those comments because immediately post-game, Jerry said Mike McCarthy isn't going to have these guys out there not playing like they're trying to win a Super Bowl. And that's exactly what we saw tonight. It was interesting listening to the broadcast. It was a comment that you and I, laughed about afterwards because Chris Collinsworth, one of the commentators, said, this looks like the NFC Championship game. And Joe and I quickly said, not so fast.
No, it doesn't look like the NFC Championship games because the Cowboys don't play in those anymore, Chris.
Yeah.
So it couldn't have looked like the NFC Championship game. Sorry.
But to his point, no, and it was a very valid point that you just made. But to Chris's point, the effort in which both of these teams were playing with, the hard-hitting defenses that we were seeing on both sides of the ball, that was something that was promising. And to Stretch's point, something that the coaches are at least, they have to be happy with given the circumstances and specifically what the Cowboys found out just hours before they took the field tonight.
The effort level that the Cowboys gave, the intensity with which the game was played with tonight, I thought that was something that you can hang your hat on. Now, how much of it was because they were on national TV and they knew that everyone around the league could have been checking out the game? I don't know. That really doesn't matter. They brought it. It's what you would want to see from a team in this position, and that was good on Mike McCarthy. Again, I am much more interested in what happens in games that really matter when the season is really on the line than what we're seeing now. I'm a golfer. I can hit a bad shot and then I can drop that second ball, and I promise you that second guy with no pressure on him is incredibly good. All right? All right? So I'm just saying.
Well, the current Cowboys giving us a ton to talk about as usual, but there is still so much more that we need to get to on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, namely some true or false trivia. That's coming up. Stay with us on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.
Love this.
And now it's time for True False, sponsored by the Fort Worth Convention and Visitors Bureau.
All right, you heard her. It's time for True or False. Now, key to this game, this version of True or False, all of the 5 questions I'm going to ask you guys are under the premise that these came since the Super Bowl era, so in the last several decades. With that, we're going to start with the very first one, and I'm going to pick on each of you to give me whether you think it's true or false, starting with the lowest number of wins for a playoff team in this Super Bowl era being 7. Mike Leslie, putting you on the spot first. Actually, I guess all guys, you have your paddles.
We got to hold them
up. Go ahead, let me see. True or false? What do you think?
Got to hold them up.
We got 2 truths.
You said is 7? 7 was the number?
7 is your number. True or false? All right.
I covered the team.
3 truths.
Mike said it. You take it, Mike.
Mike, why do you think it's true?
The 7-8-1 Carolina Panthers that I covered in 2013.
All right, that was some serious foreshadowing, my friend, but I'm really sorry to break it to you. This one, you guys just went 0 for 3. It is false. And that is because in 1982, it was the shortened era, or that shortened year. The Browns
I
and
misheard
the
the
Lions
question. Okay.
finished 4-5, and they made the playoffs.
But it was a strike-shortened season. Okay, you've obviously, Michelle, been consulting.
That feels like a trick question.
Well, and it also, you know what else it sounds like, Mike? It sounds like an Andrew Seeley question. I feel like they've been consorting, even though he's off.
I tell you what they call that. I tell you what they call that, a dokie-oke, Joe. That's
I
a
dropped my
dokie-oke
paddles.
question.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey,
no doubt
I said since the Super Bowl era in 1982
it's fair.
was Super Bowl era. I am going to also admit that Andrew Seeley did have his fingerprints all over that one. We're starting off strong. Hey, I got to live up to the standard that he set. All right, moving on to the second one. A team has started 0-4 and made the playoffs. Do we think that is true or false? Let me see these paddles. 0-4 made the playoffs. Yep. True or false?
I'll go false.
Okay,
That's
we
not
got
that
1
Panthers
false,
team
2
that I was thinking
truths.
about.
I hate to break it to you, but Mike Leslie is the one who is correct on this one. That is. Oh,
okay.
Just kidding.
Wait, no, we were right. We were right, Coach.
I'm sorry, you two
Yes,
were right.
Thank
That
you.
is true.
Thank you.
The
Yes.
1992 San Diego
Well, that was a
Chargers
tease.
started 0-4. They did make the playoffs.
Those are the San Diego Superchargers.
Thought I had the lead there, man.
They are the Superchargers. That is correct. I'm sorry.
Hey, did you hear that? I just threw the paddle across the room. Hang on a minute. I got to go get the thing.
I've juked myself out here.
I already
All right,
dropped mine once, Stretch.
Maybe I'll do better on the third one, all right? A team with 3 wins at the start of December has made the playoffs. True or false?
That's the 7-8-1 Carolina Panthers.
You would be correct, Mike Leslie. In fact, those Carolina Panthers were 3-8-1 on December 6th at the start of that month, and you are correct. They did go on to make the playoffs. Mike, any fun memories from that season?
At one point that season, their record was 3-2-1, and we were all making jokes about the fact that it kind of felt like a countdown, and we didn't know what it was a countdown to. Turned out it was a 6-game losing streak before they ended up making the playoffs. So it was a very weird season.
All right. Fourth true or false question. A Cowboys team with single-digit wins has played in the NFC Championship game. I'm going to give you guys a forewarning. Think long and hard about this one. Paddles, true or false?
I'm going to go true because I think you're again going down the strike-shortened season path here.
I'm going to go false.
I'm sorry. This time I know what I'm talking about, and Mike Leslie is the one who got it right. He was correct. Those 1982 Dallas
82?
Cowboys were 6-3.
There we go.
Strike shortened. Don't like it.
So wait, who's got the lead?
Don't like any questions that involve with the strike shortened seasons. I tune those out. I don't like
Andrew Seeley, you are a curse on this show, even from New York.
Joe, it doesn't matter with scab players. Quit putting that bull corn up here.
That's fantastic. Line of the show.
Based on the way that Mike Leslie is playing this game, I can tell he was that kid in class that was just always nitpicking. All right, final one for you guys.
I want to know who has the lead right now.
That would be you, Mike Leslie. Teams with a losing record entering the playoffs.
I don't think anybody was keeping track.
Have a winning record in the first round. Is that true or is it false? Now, I'm going to explain this one. Losing record entering the playoffs. Do they have a winning record in the first round? This is combined all of the teams who entered with a losing record. Is that true or is it false? Oh, we got falses across the board.
Ooh, across the board.
First time
graphics messed up.
That you're all right. That you're all right.
There have been some wins there, but not enough to be having a winning record.
All right. Joe, since you're in here with me, what do you think is the record for losing teams in the first round?
Oh, wow. I am going to say...
How many are there?
6
total.
How many?
6 total.
Only 6. I would say 2 and 4.
All right, let's see it.
That makes sense.
They said false, and losing teams are 2 and 4 overall in the first round.
Good guesser. Good guesser.
Good
That's all
work,
that
Joe
is.
T.
That's all that is.
Hey,
that's good guessing.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right? But absolutely. Hey, this was a good, I think, primer for the history of this franchise and really puts into perspective present day of the Cowboys.
Yeah, listen, because the only way that this team was going to make it was if they would have had like a losing record and still get in the playoffs. But this is certainly not one of those seasons, especially with the way the NFC is kind of falling, you guys, especially when you look at the top of the NFC with the way the Vikings and the Lions. I mean, there could be a team with a 5 seed that's got 13 or 14 wins this NFL season in the NFC. Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. Yeah. All right, listen, well, Michael, thank you so much. I know you need to get home and get out of there. Thanks for hanging at the stadium. Appreciate it. Coach, thanks for your maiden voyage here on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. I know you just loved it. I know you loved it.
I'm going to steal this paddle because it's about a booty
Get
butt
that
paddle.
bull corn out of here.
See ya, kids. We got a final word for you after this.
Well, welcome back to the WFA studios. Thanks so much for staying up with us late tonight. We are hosting you on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show following a Cowboys win. That's not something you heard us say very often this season over the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football primetime, Joe. It was a thriller, to say the least, and honestly, it was a really promising display of effort from these Cowboys on both sides of the ball. I thought they actually looked really balanced in all three phases, and I think what was really emphasized on the broadcast and can be truly stated, these guys were playing for their head coach in Mike McCarthy. That was something that was really nice to see. That's kind of my impression on the game tonight, but now it's time for Joe's final take.
So the Cowboys get a win tonight against the Bucs, and listen, they really muddied things up in the NFC South, but I'm not really interested in that. I'm much more interested in what the Cowboys are going to do in the future. Before this game kicked off, we knew they had no opportunity to make the playoffs. What they did have an opportunity to do was better their chance to get better draft picks. They did not do that either. Listen, there's something to be said about the continued fight that we've seen from these Cowboys, but I'd like to say a whole lot more about whatever draft pick they get, and it needs to be the best one possible. So here's hoping for the rest of this season, the Cowboys figure out how to organically tank and lose these last two games. And that is my take on your Dallas Cowboys. What do you think?
Heard it here first. I think you're absolutely right, and I think you speak for the masses when it comes to this fan base, how they feel about how this season went, especially coming off of 3 12-win seasons and not having success in the postseason. They want to see a better future versus a better next couple games as the Cowboys close this season out.
Bottom line for this, listen, the Cowboys didn't win when they had to earlier in the season, so I'm not particularly interested if they win now. Great job out of you, Michelle Montaigne. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. That'll do it for the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. We'll see you soon.
This has been the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.